I hear the major in the background.
I'm here.
That's right.
What?
What's happening, brother? Hold on one second.
Nothing
Give me 1 second. I'm getting set up.
No issues. They told me that you want to be on every Monday.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely. Tara's in our second hour, so this works out well for me. We can do a rotating thing or what have you. Yeah.
Doesn't matter to me, man. Look, as long if you just here's the deal. You know, like I say, whenever you want me on, just message me.
Love
the
it.
day before.
No, this is great. I'm glad to have you. Sorry to keep you waiting. I was setting up a thing on my computer, as you do, because there's a lot of. Well, we'll talk about it on the air. Hold on, give me 1 second while I set this up. And people could hear you, by the way. So try to keep your swearing to a maximum.
Gotcha, brother.
It's what I do.
It's what I do good.
Mm-hmm. There we go. And I'm still set up for you, which is good. I'm just gonna grab this. And chat room, how's the audio sound to you guys? You hear me coming through? I hope so. We'll be up in a second. Got the major in the first hour. I got Tara in the second hour. It's super exciting. That's weird. And I'm not ready yet. All right. Okay, we're gonna start in about 10 seconds. I'm gonna bring him in. Ladies and gentlemen, it's so exciting. It's so exciting. I'm just gonna go ahead and everybody can hear me anyway. So, ladies and gentlemen, the major is joining us this morning right out of the gate. Happy Monday. So much to cover, so much to be said. All right, are we streaming okay? Is everything going out like I hope and think it is? Making sure that chat room, can you see me? Can you feel me? Do you know there you go. Hit that like. Excellent. Airborne. Everybody's yelling airborne. I think so. Good to see you, sir. Happy Monday to you as well. And a couple of things right out of the gate. I think the big kind of two serious points of news in terms of our internal domestic politics was, of course, that Biden's motorcade, like a rando car hit one of the members of the motorcade. And the two reactions people have been having is that the Secret Service did not move fast enough to protect him. In that case, they thought they were a little laggy on this. And we're a little bit, I guess, slow to get him in the truck. They did draw guns and back towards him, and he was fine. Nothing was wrong. And by the way, it was not an intentional hit. It was not, it was an accident. People didn't know the street was blocked off. Somebody just turned and bumped into a car. Wasn't a huge thing, so it wasn't like a car sped up and rammed, which would be the sign that there's something bigger coming. And then, of course, Trump's big poisoning the blood of our country quote, which I think is, if you want to talk about like kind of the parallels of what's going on right now and why I think people were concerned about, oh no, there was a crash near Biden and people aren't acting quick enough and we got to protect him and they're nervous about it, is because of Trump quoting Hitler. And your thoughts on either of those? Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you. I can't see anybody, but
okay.
I hear you.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I'll pop that up. I will guarantee. Ta-da!
Okay,
there
we go. There we go.
Yep.
I see now. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's sickening, man. I mean, we know because of Donald Trump's past wives that the only thing that he ever read and kept by his bedside was Mein Kampf.
Well, it was actually a collection of Hitler's speeches. So to some degree, it was like the marketing version of Mein Kampf. I think I actually thought like Mein Kampf was too dense a reading for somebody like him. But the idea that he would, and you could tell, by the way, okay, got some lag, something's happening there. We'll work it out. We'll get some issues up. We'll see if it's bouncing back. We're all right.
I see you good.
Yeah, everything's working on my end as well. We'll check in. Sometimes there's a delay in the chat and they roll through. But anyways, and by the way, right out of the gate, guys, hit the like so that people know we're on the air and people know that we're live. That always helps us to boost up. So if you're in here and you can see us and you're listening and all that kind of stuff, hit the like. Do it right now. And you can always take it back later if I suck. Okay? It's not on the guests. It's on me. You can always unlike it at the very end and go, you know what? And you could post a video mea culpa. I'm sorry I liked that stream. I was wrong to have. And I owe it to my viewers to tell the truth. You can knock yourself out. But the easiest would be to just go ahead and hit that like right now. Now, that said, I think if you watch Trump when he plays the Lee Greenwood song and he's just kind of dicking around, he's doing this like, he does the Mussolini pose because he doesn't like his nunt, his neck gina showing. Yeah. So he does the Mussolini chin jut, and he also stands up there while the music is playing, partly because he's a dickhead and doesn't know that the song is longer than he thinks it is, and he used to walk from the plane to the stage, and it took the whole song, and now he doesn't have the plane or anymore, so he just walks up on stage, and they're like, oh, fuck, there's a whole other verse and 2 choruses, and oh, great. So he's just sounding like an asshole. But part of it is also that kind of Hitlerian, like, stand there while Wagner plays and let these assholes worship me, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, we know that that's what he wants to be. I mean, if you think about the relationships that he created and the ones that he still talks about today, it's his relationship with, Kim Jong-un, the Saudi prince, you got Vladimir Putin, of course. And heck, yesterday, I believe it was yesterday that he quoted the president of Hungary, Orban. I mean, these are dictators. That's what Donald, and when he says, I'll just be a dictator for one day, let me tell you something. There is
nobody's a dictator for one day.
Yeah, the moment that he tastes that power, he wants to keep it. The same thing with the presidency. He wants to keep it. He never wanted to leave. It wasn't because that he was working so hard and getting all those attaboys from all these poor people out there that were struggling, that needed help. It was because he liked the fact that he could give to the filthiest of the rich, and they would be happy with him. And he could do what he wanted to do and stay out of trouble, stay out of being indicted.
Right. Well, I think that applies to him. And I think if you're watching, I don't know if you noticed, but in the polls recently, Nikki Haley has jumped to second solidly in New Hampshire, like 19, 20% or whatever, well above where DeSantis never reached that amount. She's now at that point. And Chris Christie's got at 10 to 14%, depending on which one. That means that both of them, since the debates, have been in double digits against Donald Trump and growing. And you've got an increasing number of people that are, like Republican governors and the like, that are, endorsing other people besides Donald Trump. First of all, that's just good news for Democrats across the board. On the one hand, there's a myriad of reasons. Well, we can go down the list. And I would love to hear your take on some of these folks, but there is no way that the half, Donald Trump, again, 98% of Republicans voted for Donald Trump last time and the time before. Now he's got 50% support in the party. That, I don't know why people think that's a fucking win, that, because he's 20 points over his rivals, he's 50% behind himself from last time, right? And so, and Haley is making some moves. Now, I have my theories about, Republicans not voting for a woman of color, and that a lot of these folks think that if they run her, they can use it as sort of a dunking point against Democrats and our sort of openness to people of color and people and women, especially in our party, that if you run one against Biden, you can go, see, they want an old white guy and not her, right? That's the only dig they can get, because they're not going to vote. She's going to lose. They're not going to vote for her. It doesn't matter. She's not going to get anywhere near the Republican votes she would need to be elected, but somehow it'll be Democrats' fault, right?
When the Republicans push somebody that is not part of the norm of the rich old white guy, they're usually just doing it because they found somebody who is a trash person that they could say, hey, we like her, just like no different than hey, the Republicans were the first people to put a man of color on the Supreme Court. Yeah, Clarence Thomas, a complete and utter sack of shit. I mean, that's when they put somebody different. Oh, we want Nikki Haley. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Nikki Haley wants to raise the age to be able to draw Social Security, probably way past 98% of the people in this country will ever, grow to.
Right.
So, I mean, she wants to cut Medicare, Medicaid. So, once again, another garbage person that will do nothing for the poor and the middle class and will absolutely do everything to bend over backwards to make sure that the filthy rich get their friggin' way again.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and also, again, that kind of goes to sort of the rich people's support of Donald Trump. That was sort of an understood as part of his appeal, because even his what I would effectively call, and you and I both know that if you're from a white trash background, as I think both of us would obviously admit to, you're allowed to pick on it your whole life because you either escaped or grew above it, but you definitely lived it for the formative years. And as somebody who, effectively had to urinate off the edge of the porch because we had to save the fresh water so the ladies of the house could use the toilet, because that was we were running out of water because the city hadn't driven out in the truck and poured water into our cistern until, because we'd already, we weren't at the end of the month, we were out of water. If you've lived through that, you can call the MTGs of the world out as being some like faux billies, I would call them, just like fucking Mike Huckabee's, all this like Bubba bullshit. Dude's been a multimillionaire for decades. Like, shut the fuck up. But it used to be that the rich would obviously support Trump, and then the redneck kind of underclass would support it because he's their lottery ticket. That's their version of the American dream. 3 wives. You can assault any woman you want and they can't say shit. And you can live in some gaudy, gold-leafed bullshit, faux French Revolutionary style embarrassment of an apartment that just with like dead animal rugs and shit like that. And they're like, that's what I want one day. And he got it. So he must know something I don't. And you know what he knows? He knows you're an idiot and you will give him your money.
Yeah, it amazes me because, like I said, I come from that part of the world. I mean, I just moved down here and built a new home in North Carolina. But I'm telling you right now, I still know places that absolutely, have big water reservoirs.
Yep.
And that's what keeps everybody in that community to have water and to flush toilets. And I mean, it's like that. And it's so crazy because I see these people and it's just like you're saying. I mean, they're not voting for Donald Trump because Donald Trump helped them, because Donald Trump lowered prices for them, and because Donald Trump, they like Donald Trump because it's like they want to be, they like that he is the worst versions of themselves, and they want to, they want to be that way. They want to be able to say the things that he wants to say and do what he does. I really don't understand it but I'll tell you, that's where the lack of education comes into this, is that they don't realize.
Right. I do think there was a period where like the rich will like, well, this guy's an idiot, but he'll suck up to us because he needs money and he needs support and he wants to be in our circles and all that shit in New York, right? And go ahead.
No, you are spot on. That's the thing, is that's the only thing. I look at these people from southern West Virginia, from McDowell County, from Mingo County. We're talking some of the most impoverished counties in the country.
Yep.
And the way they look at it is, he says the things that we say.
Right.
And he may say it, but he's never following through with any of this stuff. He didn't help you. Yeah, sure. Nope. He throws curse words out there and gets a big laugh and calls, he goes low with everything, but that's not the mark,
No.
And you're right. They're falling for this garbage and it's killing us.
Well, and the interesting thing is there. Okay, so in the recent caucus polling in Iowa and in New Hampshire, which is what he's hanging his hat on. And he was just in Reno and called Nevada again after after screwing that up last time. I don't even know if you remember that, but he was like, if it's Nevada. If you say Nevada, you're saying it wrong. You're like, no, asshole, it's the exact opposite.
Wrong.
And like everybody's, booing him about it. And he thinks they're booing the pronunciation Nevada because it sounds trashy and wrong to him, right? Because he said, even in like when he was talking about the Clinton socks case, remember that bullshit? He said,
in his sock drawer.
In his sock drawer, like this, like drawer. It's a drawer. If you're us, it's a drawer. It's a dresser. Sock drawer. Anyways, point being, he's making an ass out of himself in a third state. But Iowa is where the caucuses of Iowa have always been very, mangled because you just you stand there in a crowd and some people can join this crowd and bounce over and nobody's writing it down. It's not a secret ballot like New Hampshire or other places. So it's a lot of like, it's kind of like maneuvering and muscling people. You know what I mean? There's a lot of pressure campaigns, and a lot of times the loudest, angriest activists will end up driving the herds more than the actual desire of the voters. It's kind of stupid. But he's nervous that his folks aren't going to show up because they did a poll and half of his caucus supporters last time in 2016 were first-time caucus goers. They'd never been there before. And the same thing was true of this batch, meaning a bunch of that original batch, the first half, they would count as coming back. So they're the other half. They've come twice, if at all. That means the standard run-of-the-mill Republicans aren't showing up for him at all. So if he doesn't get every angry nutter to come out in Iowa, he's going to lose these caucuses and have to argue this fucking point someplace else. And he's panicking. It's hilarious.
Well, I'm going to tell you what I'm looking forward to is I'm looking forward to him losing these caucuses. And then we all get a picture of what 2024 is going to be as well. He's going to immediately start screaming that the Iowa caucuses was a fraud. They're rigged it against me.
Right.
New Hampshire, but I'm hoping that once he starts, doing that again, that some of these people are going to go, here we go again, man. That's not the path I want to be on. And because I really do believe that people are waking up in this country. I think that out of the 1.3 million Americans that died to COVID, I think a good solid million of them were Republicans. And I believe that their families,
600K, but
I believe that the families that lost loved ones, I hope that they're looking at that and saying, we didn't have to lose our loved one.
Right.
I'm hoping that these people are like on the edge, and it's these type of, when he starts screaming about the Iowa caucus being against him again, I'm hoping that that's all that it takes to basically convince him that he's not the way.
Right. There's a story out in NBC that NBC is putting out today about the crime rate in the United States. And Trump is like, there's two big points to this whole poisoning the blood Nazi bullshit that he's putting up.
I love you, brother. Yeah. I love you, man.
So, I love you too. And so this, they have to push this idea. We're in a declining country. Everything is failing. Everything is falling apart. And so that is a cul-de-sac that a lot of right-wingers find themselves in, watching the same videos over and over again and their brain registering it as a different event, right? You see one thing happen 20 times, you think 20 events occurred. That's the mentality of a lot of these fuckers. So there's this story came out in NBC. 80% of Americans and 92% of Republicans think crime has gone up. And it actually fell in 2023, specifically murder rates and violent crime. And social media being the primary one. This is a Gallup poll, found 77% of Americans think crime rates are worsening. And this is, and they went and checked FBI statistics, victims groups, which is the other way you check shit. And the right wing will always write off that there's this thing where like California stopped, or one of the blue states, I forget which one they're making it up about, says that kidnapping is not a violent crime. And they're like, see, this is the proof. Okay, you know why they don't count kidnapping automatically as a violent crime? Because 80% of kidnappings, as they're charged, are one parent taking the kid from another parent, not because they're going to hurt the kid or steal them, but because they believe they should have custody and the other person got it or whatever, and it lasts 3 fucking days. So 80% of the time there's a kidnapping, it's a parental kidnapping, and they're taking it from the other parent, and it's resolved relatively quickly, and the kids aren't harmed 80% of the time. That's why, because statistically it fucking ain't. And when it is, there are add-ons, the endangering of a minor, a person with domestic violence charges in a state like California carrying a weapon, the weapon used in the commission of a kidnapping, those kind of things. So that 20%, the reason they add on charges, and it's meaningful, is so that we don't fill our prisons with parents who are disgruntled parents who kept the kid an hour longer, and the mom or the dad calls and says, they stole my kid and they won't return them. You're like, we're caught in traffic, right? Honest to God. That's how half of these things are. But anyways, point is, 80% of Americans think crime is getting worse, and it's improving. Same thing about the economy. They check people on the economy. 80% of people think the economy is worse and that wages are falling when they're actually going up, and unemployment has been stable for the longest period. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, Biden is actually killing it on the economy. But here's the thing, too, just like you said, if you do a little bit of research, you're going to find that the number one state in the United States of America that is the most unsafe state to be in terms of murder is Mississippi. Number two is Louisiana. Then you have Missouri, you've got South Carolina, you've got Alabama, you got Arkansas, you got Kentucky. I mean, literally, when you look at it, you're like, okay, out of the top 10, 9 of them are absolute Republican states. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean,
and also that a lot of us think about, what do you make your decision on when you go out at night or in a neighborhood you're not familiar with or in an area you're not familiar with? Well, the per capita percentage of the violence is the thing. In Chicago, for example, which certainly has a high number of shootings and that kind of stuff. Most of them are down in the Southwest area. They're almost specifically down there. It is a tragedy in and of itself, but it is very specific. You don't really, and you know, there's so many people in Chicago that percentage-wise, if you're going, what are the odds of me being shot in Chicago? They're really goddamn low, unless you're in a beef with a fellow gangster. That's honestly it. And if you go downtown, you're not worried about that. That's not true in Louisiana, in most cities. It's not true because there are fewer people and a higher percentage of weapons and drunk people, and that's a great mix. Yeah. And we know, like, we've seen it, like, again, if people haven't watched The Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia, they have to. You gotta just stop and understand that all those people in that movie voted for Trump. I'm just saying. That's also the other thing.
Guaranteed.
Those are the people. Guaranteed. All of them on public assistance, all of them living off Social Security, and all of them voted for Trump if they voted at all, which is the other part.
And some of them are still doing like podcasts, glorifying keeping the glory days alive.
Oh yeah.
Good Lord.
Oh my God. Okay, so and in that Gallup survey, 92% of Republicans think crime's going up, 78% of independents think so, and 58% of Democrats think crime is rising. And again, if you're a Democrat living in a Democrat city and that's where all the violence is, wouldn't you be on the front lines of experiencing this ginormous rise in crime, right? But obviously not. And again, 92% of Republicans, I would guess, what do we think? 65% of Republicans in general are rural voters at this point. Yeah. Nationwide, you take like the entire state of Montana versus however many Republicans there might be in LA County, right? They're almost the same number of human beings. Yeah.
I will tell you, a big part of this is just, to me, it's just how gullible so many people in this country are, and they fall for the narrative that they're being pushed. I mean, if you listen to Donald Trump, and you listen to, I mean, the people.
Oh my God!
It looks like World War Z at the border, where bodies are just rolling over the tops of the walls.
That's right. That's right.
And that's not happening. But you got these people that aren't that smart. And I hate to say it. Let me tell you something. You can have a degree too and still not be that daggone smart. But there's a lot of people that's all they watch, and to them, they're scared to death because it's only a matter of time before the MS-13 takes over the county.
Right.
It's all a bunch of garbage, and there's no facts to back this stuff up. But
well, I have a go ahead. Sorry, and I have a question.
It just that's what gets me is that it's like we allowed news stations like Fox News and Newsmax and them to spew this garbage. I mean, come on, Systematic, sue them for at least another $787 million, so that maybe that will be what it takes to get Fox off of the air. I mean, right now, the way I look at it, they are absolutely targeting every single citizen in this country with absolute lies, and it's really hurting our country. Like you said, if you do the research, you'll find that it's not nowhere near as dangerous as they're trying to put it out to be. But these people that ain't paying attention, that are hearing what they're saying, hell, they're scared to go to sleep at night now, and it's a shame. That's not the way we should be acting as Americans.
No, and I would argue that it is it's sort of like a self-sustaining lie, because what you do is we equate it a lot of times to like an abusive partner saying nobody likes you, everybody secretly hates you, I'm the only one that loves you, and if you go outside everybody's making fun of you and that kind of stuff. So the person stops going outside for fear of that, and then the only person they have any interaction with is the person telling them this, and then it's this just rotating issue where and even if they go out, even if somebody smiles at them, what you hear, well, they're only smiling to your face, but as soon as you leave, they're mocking you or that kind of stuff. The same thing is true to like, it's right around the corner. Look at social media. You may have gone out, had a perfectly fine day. You might have gone to a football game, had a great time. You may have, your kids may be totally fine at school and just learning like normal or whatever, but right around the corner via your phone is this worst case scenario anecdotal story I have that is, a sign that we're going to hell in the tubes of hell, and we're going down the tubes to hell, and we're already there, but we're going to be there soon if we're not already there, and we've been there. Like do you think it wears off though? Because I do think there's a group of people, and maybe that's what this caucus stuff is about. Do you think there's a point where I don't think they're going to vote for Biden, but I do think they're not going to vote? I think there's a bunch of these folks that are just bailing on this horse shit.
If Donald Trump is removed from the ballot, I will tell you 30 to 40% of the Republican voters will not show up at the polls.
Right.
and I'm going to tell you, I say this all the time. I mean, I know people, back where I come from in Logan County, West Virginia, that literally never voted. I'm talking huge swaths of areas. We had one area, and I don't care, it had 88 registered voters in that little community. And on election day, they had to walk down the street to the grade school, and they voted right there. I can remember when an election happened, and this was when I was actually, out of the military. And only one out of 88 of the registered voters actually got up, walked down there, and casted a vote. But now I'm going to tell you right now, the people in that community, there's lots of them. And it's all you hear. They're all over the news. This is garbage. Well, stand up and fight, everybody. They don't even take the time to go vote. But make no mistake about it, when Donald Trump come about, they voted. Yeah. And that's my thing, is that if they take Donald Trump off the ballot, and I think that they should, I don't think that he deserves to be there. I think that the things that he's done already should already deny him the right to be able to run for president. But make no mistake about it, if they take him off there, you're going to see 30 to 45% of the Republican voters stay home.
Right. Well, that's okay. Let's say, we go through this just facade. He manages to squeak out in the primaries, and it gets dirtied up in the process, by the way. He's not going through the primaries as the clear front runner that everybody was saying, where he just coasts through with 80% or some bullshit. It's not happening. It's going to be a 50-50 coin flip between him and a bunch of other people, where they go between him and anybody the fuck else, right? That's the flip right now. And he goes through that whole primary. Then he ends up in the general election, which he is going to lose, because women of this country aren't putting up with this shit. And the vast majority of independents are like, I can't take this asshole anymore. And things are finally moving in the right direction. We're putting COVID and the economic damage it created in the rearview mirror. We're on a decent path. And at least we passed infrastructure, for fuck's sake. Like, there's going to be a lot of just kind of sanity wins voters, right? Yeah. Meanwhile, let's just fantasize that he grinds his teeth for another 4 years, and he manages to live with his diet and his sundowning to the end of Biden's term. and then he decides I'm gonna run again, and it's gonna be Newsom or somebody else running who's much younger and that kind of stuff. But he's gonna run. Let's say he runs again or whatever. There's no way he wins that one, the primary. And if he's not on that, I know. And if he loses that primary, which he will, and it'll be hilarious and gross and funny to watch and all that kind of, just the same mangled mess again, just a lot of incendiary, bigoted bullshit. But then he doesn't make it to the ballot. What is, after destroying every next level Republican for the entirety of his political career from 2016 on, who the fuck steps up? That is a successor to Trumpism, or did they just kind of like shrug it off and go, where is the regional party now? We got half the voters we had because these fuckers aren't coming back.
They got no bench, my brother. They got no bench. I mean, we got Gavin Newsom. We got Andy Beshear. I mean, and if those two team up, that's another
8 years. 16 years, right? Years. Totally.
That's another 16. I'll take that all day long.
I agree. You get a California governor who's been running went from the 7th to the 5th largest economy in the world during his tenure, and then you get the Democratic governor of Kentucky as his VP,
wins,
right?
Who wins in Republican
repeatedly. Right.
And I'm going to tell you, I've met Andy Beshear.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
We actually spent a day stuffing turkeys and food in boxes for local folks. We went down there with the Teamsters, and I'm going to tell you, everybody loves Andy Beshear, and his father was a good governor too.
Yep.
So I mean, I think that that's what we need. We need to make sure that we pinpoint these people and start pumping them up. Yep. I think I love that Gavin Newsom is taking some time to smoke people like cheap cigars, like Ron DeSantis, because at the end of the day, there could be a possibility where because we're talking about the age, and that there are people on the Democrat side that are like, hey, man, I mean, I think he might be too old, even though he's killing it the way I look at it. He's killing it. But, I'm just hoping that at the last minute, if he decides he's not going to run, as long as he hands that torch over to Gavin Newsom, I feel comfortable. I feel that Gavin Newsom will smoke any of these people.
I agree.
Any of them.
I think, and again, I think we have a multitude of people who could do that. And even if they had people that could ignite the base and the rank and file Republicans, all and combine them together in a way that I think 2016 Trump did to some degree. He's eaten them alive. Trump has spent his entire time destroying them. You know what I mean? Like, and especially this time, Jesus Christ, the long knives are already out for any DeSantis voters. And do you think if any of the other people manage to be across the ballot, like, I swear to God, like, let's say DeSantis becomes the person and they back him up with Haley, and it's this kind of dream ticket of the two bigger ones or whatever, and they've made amends with Chris Christie, and you know what I mean, to bring him in and make him Secretary of State. And so all the voters, even if they were dicey with each other, decide we're going to be the collective that pushes him out. And this is like the cabinet trying to shuffle Netanyahu out of there, right? Everybody, like, we got to band together to get this knucklehead out of here. Do you think, I mean, half of the Republicans that are voting for Trump or have said they're going to vote for Trump will more than maybe a third at this point, I don't know who the fuck his followers are, will vote for that group. The other 2/3 or a half will just shiv the shit out of them the entire election cycle.
Yeah, what people don't realize is that Donald Trump is really destroying the Republican Party.
Right.
Because like you said,
it's the nicest thing you can say about it. Yeah.
Yeah, when he goes to these rallies, he bashes Chris Christie, Nikki Haley, and Ron DeSantis just as much as he does Joe Biden. So at the end of the day, the people that are brainwashed by Donald Trump's garbage, make no mistake, but they hate Nikki Haley. How dare she stand against this orange Lord and Savior? How dare Ron DeSantis even throw his hat in the ring? That's how dare Ron DeSantis, who only got elected to governor because Donald Trump basically, endorsed him. How dare he stab our orange Lord and Savior in the back?
Right.
I mean, it's done.
But here's the other thing, and I got to say, about everybody he's bitching about I don't know why his own followers aren't making this particular connection, which is
I do.
We both do. Right. The particular connection I'm talking about that I'm confused that Trump followers don't seem to get is that look at all the people that he salvaged from the brink of obscurity and put them into positions of power, who later are disloyal assholes who are turning on him. And if he #knows the best people and he knows how to make deals and he can basically read minds on a business level, how did he not see the Bill Barr and Jeff Sessions coming? How did he not see Nikki Haley coming? How did he not see Ron DeSantis coming? How did he not see fucking Rex Tillerson coming? How did he not see every chief of staff until Mark Meadows coming? How did at each point everybody he puts in a position, anybody who hangs out with him for more than 6 weeks is suddenly like, oh, this guy's an idiot and I could beat him if I tried because he's a moron, or he's actually a criminal and I can't be around this fucker. That's the two roads that come out of this, honestly.
And look at what he's basically already saying. I mean, he's already basically talking about, when I go back, I'm bringing back Stephen Miller, both of them. Oh, by the way, one of them is a daggone neo-Nazi that absolutely told Donald Trump that he needed to pull children out of the hands of the mothers while they were suckling on the mother's breasts and stick them in cages. And the other one was the guy who got a daggone his mistress pregnant.
Jason Miller, the two Millers,
And then he gave her a daggone toxic cocktail that was laced with daggone the medicine to kill the unborn child.
Right,
Yeah, whatever.
And again, those guys are both still working with him. The guy who dosed his stripper that he got pregnant.
It was a stripper.
All the stuff they say about Hunter Biden and his whole thing about the stripper he got pregnant and now he's got a child, and by the way, the Bidens have waited until their custody thing was worked out, and then they recognized the child. They waited out till he worked it out in court, and now they do. But all during that period, they're like, they won't even say Merry Christmas to their own grandchild and blah blah blah. Meanwhile, Trump is employing a dude who dosed a stripper with the abortion pill to try and get her to abort, non-consensual abortion. Jesus Christ, what the ever-loving fuck is that? And and he still works there. He's still his chief spokesperson. He's still, and he's gonna be in the next one, right? Again, though, I don't really fear these idiots because he's not going to put them in charge of anything important because he thinks they're stupid and they're his lackeys. So even Stephen Miller might be back, but he'll still be a speechwriter or an advisor. Same thing with Jason Miller. The issue is that anybody that Trump puts into one of the bigger positions of power, it's the same thing he runs into with his SCOTUS picks. You put somebody in that and suddenly they've got a legacy. And now their legacy is more important than the fact that you gave them that fucking job. And that's what happened that's why he's mad at Kavanaugh. That's why he's mad at Amy Coney Barrett, because they were just there for abortion. They don't give a rat's ass about him. They're not going to put him back in office. They're going to bend the fucking law to make him, immunity super president or any bullshit like that. It's not happening.
They see the writing on the wall. They know that Donald Trump absolutely, if they even try to help Donald Trump, then when we do take power and we are going to take over the House again and we're going to increase what we have in the Senate, make no mistake about it, there will be serious ethics thrown into the faces of these Supreme Court justices. And that's why they better think twice before they start breaking, laws and rules to try to help this orange,
I got to say, I think they're pretty sure that Democrats will keep their powder dry, other than maybe Clarence Thomas, because I think that will just grow on its own. It's metastasized on its own, so much so that nobody's even paying attention to Kavanaugh's sketchy shit. But you could get one. You could get Clarence Thomas off there, right? I could see that actually happening, but there won't be a total real reshuffle. I think Kavanaugh and the rest of these assholes are worried about the fact that if they put a dictator in charge, if they give him the rights and privileges as president that he's asking for, the SCOTUS becomes completely unimportant. It becomes useless. Their function as a body more than any other because they're the ones that do the logistical, like the legal checks, on behalf of the Constitution on what the presidency can do and what the House can do. He'll just override it. If his EOs, if his executive orders are as good as law, not only does Congress get totally pushed out of the equation because he can just override what they're doing and create permanent law based on his executive orders, which is fucking bananas, and nobody ever wants that. But the SCOTUS can't undo it via the normal system that they want, which is, this law is unconstitutional. If the Congress wants to pass a constitutional version of this, they can, right? This word or this little bit or this sentence makes it unconstitutional. That's always been their out. Like, that's how they got around Dobbs and how they got around Roe v. Wade. It's like, if they want to codify abortion as a right, they can write a law saying that. But in lieu of doing that, this doesn't do that anymore. Right? The problem is, you give the president the kind of powers he's asking for as far as that presidential immunity and the supreme executive power in the presidency. He can write laws. He can scratch out a sentence, go, now it's constitutional, and that's it. Without involving the Congress, without involving the House having to vote on it, bounce it to the Senate, bounce it back, none of the committee, all it's vapor at that point. And so I don't see why they would. I don't see why the SCOTUS would back that kind of supreme presidential power.
And by backing that, you basically turn our country, our democracy, into a dictatorship.
Right.
That's what it is. And that's what he wants.
Yes. And if you look at China right now, who is, when you have it effectively a de facto dictatorship happening, he has been killing, Xi Jinping has killed, like, that we know of, 8 major members of the sort of the ruling class of the CCP. They've disappeared. One of them, they're like, was he tortured to death, or did he commit suicide because he was so tortured he didn't want to live anymore? Like, it's that fucking bad. I got news for you. SCOTUS reads the newspaper, and so does the House and Senate. And the idea that you would put a dude who is blowing smoke up Kim Jong-un's ass in charge of some sort of fucking purge is nuts. It's not going to happen. They'll seriously, it will. Yeah.
I really wish that we could reach out and we could convince, the Latino and the Hispanic crowds. It sickens me when I see these people talk about, we support Trump. Trump has already promised the largest mass deportation,
the bigliest
that will ever take place. And if you think for one second that he's not going to go after the Hispanic and Latino crowd, you've been sleeping for the past 7 years.
Dude, do you think he's not gonna check fucking papers even? He's gonna go to these houses and go, if there's one illegal in here, everybody's illegal because you housed an illegal. And if you originally got in here because of amnesty or something else before, or you were, I don't give a shit, out. We'll work it out later. The default is get out of the country. And then you can make your case for why you should be let in. And at that point, we'll just build the legal and physical wall, 10 times higher. That's what they're arguing for. And and obviously it doesn't apply to the Melanias of the world who, once my process was streamlined, it became much easier. Like, did you really just say that in front of a bunch of new immigrants who had to sit through classes and memorize shit that you've never even bothered to learn about this country to become citizens? And you're going to tell them because you were a model, and you knew Epstein's friends, that you were streamlined. Your process was was it? Is that what it was? It was streamlined, was it? Fuck me. So
she had a genius visa there.
Right.
Let me tell you something. When you brought that up, I can remember actually being in Baghdad, and I was at a ceremony that had over 400 soldiers, Marines, sailors, airmen in the Outfall Palace, all raising their right hand and taking their oath of citizenship. And every single one of them had deployed to combat. They came to this country and signed on the dotted line because our country said, hey, if you're willing to go fight for us, we'll put you on a fast track to get your citizenship.
Right.
And I want to tell you, that's what really drives me crazy, is because we've got so many people that were willing to fight and die for this country, and some of them did. There were some that were killed before they even got their citizenship.
Yep.
And those are the people that I want. Those are the people that deserve to walk the streets of America. Those are the people that deserve the opportunities. But make no mistake about it, Donald Trump would give two shits to strip them of that and kick them out of the country because they're from light brown to dark brown, because that's also a big part of it. Donald Trump does not like people that are light brown to dark brown. And oh, by the way, if you think he likes Tim Scott, Tim Scott is just another one of those people. I don't give a shit. Token. He's just another person that the white people will like because they know that he will absolutely take their side. And that's sad.
Well, again, there have always been folks who will side against their own interests because they think they will be up the ladder and it won't matter at that point, that there's enough to go around that they'll allow a few to live, look at the Jewish camp capos in Auschwitz and the like, that kind of thing, which was a mix of I need to get out so I can tell people what's going on, and other people who I will do whatever it takes for me to survive. There's a mix, right? There's a mix of that in there, and that's just true. The bad part is that somebody has to be even in that situation, and that's what the Republican Party requires of its minority members. They have to be willing to be pushed out in front and kind of take all the arrows and stuff, which is not their responsibility. No race is homogenous, no belief system is homogenous, and you should have the right to differ about these things. But in the case of the Republican Party, look at how McCarthy was clamoring about how diverse they had made the Republican Party under his watch, because George Santos checked 2, maybe 3, maybe 5 boxes, depending on who he was that week, right? Yeah. They didn't give a goddamn. And again, I have this problem on our side when people think that diversity is finding somebody who looks different than you that says the same shit. That's not diversity. Somebody who agrees with you, who's a different color, does not qualify as diversity to me. And Republicans will claim diversity about that, and that's exactly what they're doing. I just won't participate in it on our side. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think that anybody has to believe 100% what I believe, or even 80% for me to go, okay, I get you. We can work out the other 20% as long as it's not, I guess, female genital mutilation or, that kind of stuff. There are certain lines I kind of have to draw, but generally I think we're okay there. It's diversity of ideas but under the umbrella of we're under a constitution where everybody has rights, and your religious beliefs and that kind of stuff end at the tip of your nose, and it's your responsibility to convince other people of your path, not force them to take it. And certainly not to shove them in front of you in the path and make them take the slings and arrows for you, or pretend that your idea is better just because they're standing in front of you. That's not how it works. And I think a lot of people, that's what Trump's whole they're coming after me, but it's really so they won't come after you. There's a bunch of people who believe that. I'm no, none of these motherfuckers had documents hidden in their fucking shitter or on a stage in a ballroom at a rental property they shit in a third of the year. Yeah. Maybe, okay, but maybe you can answer this for me. Why does this motherfucker have a house? Why does he live in an apartment at an event property that he rents out?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you another thing too, is there's a big possibility that, I've already seen that could be stripped away from him as well. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump has always lived a lie. We know that. We now know that, his ability to lie to banks and insurance companies have enriched him greatly. Letitia James going after $250 million, but they have already said that it could be more along the lines of around $367 million, because he really did do a lot of damage. And once again, but he lives a life. He has his apartment.
Right.
But it's kind of like, I guarantee you that every aspect about his life is a lie or a scam.
Right.
Hey, we're going to live in this area, but we're going to call it this, because if we call it this, we can get a tax break off of. His whole entire life has been that way.
Right.
Chief Financial Officer Alan Weisselberg, that was his whole role, was to basically do the research and make sure that they could get away with this garbage that they got away with for a long damn time. And it's coming to an end.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying tax write-off for why he lives in Mar-a-Lago. I have a feeling that part of it is that if he doesn't own anything and everything's in debt, then you can't seize it from him. And so he hides behind this wall of complexity. So even if you came for it, it'd be decades before you actually got it from him, and then he'd be dead or moved on or wouldn't give a shit anymore or whatever. But I do find it lame and particularly obvious that we've been talking about in the whole Biden thing about his house, at the lake, and the house that he has in Delaware. He has 2 houses. He got a little lake house and whatever. Which, by the way, most of the Canadians I know have a house and a cottage. And the cottage is nothing to sneeze at, but it's a little thing they go to up at the lake and that kind of stuff. They have 2 domiciles in that regard, a good portion of them. And this isn't even on a scale. Like, you even look at the house, you're like, this is what we're arguing about? That house? Seriously? I mean, it looks like something you'd see on Zillow and put it in you'd heart it, You're like, I can get that one, I can afford that one. Like, you're right. But the Obamas have a house, obviously, in Chicago. The Clintons, they had that like apartment condo-y thing in New York, and then their house in upstate New York or wherever after the presidency. Nixon had a house. Reagan had a ranch. But W has his little ranch in Midland. All of them have houses except this dumb motherfucker. This guy, right? I don't get. It's odd. It's really. And it seems to stick out like a sore thumb to me, but nobody seems to. I guess it doesn't bother them on the right at all.
Well, maybe what Donald Trump will actually end up doing for us in the end is maybe our government can look at this and they could make sure that this never happens again. They could do certain things. I'm going to tell you right now, the one thing that Donald Trump did, which I think I've known it for a long time, you've known it for a long time, but it really exposed the corruption in the religious world. These televangelists and stuff like that were able to use Donald Trump to fleece their flock when we've got men that are claiming to be, the voices of God that have multiple jets, massive houses. To me, I want him to be investigated, and I want him to pay friggin' taxes. Right. I'm tired of these friggin' people living in the lap of luxury while we got people in this country that are struggling, and they're getting away with it because they claim, that God talks to them.
Okay,
bullshit.
So Donald Trump lost, and by the way, waiting in the wings is our dear friend Tara Dublin. She'll be with us in just one moment. Very exciting. She got to meet Henry Winkler in person.
Oh.
And, come on. That's just cool. Winning. So we'll talk about that with her in a moment. But before I let you go, Donald Trump, he had over $240 million worth of loans forgiven from Deutsche Bank on the Chicago Tower. Okay. When they built the Chicago Tower, he borrowed $660 million from different sources. An investment group, which, by the way, they own part of it, and they own a bigger part of it now. His name is probably the only part of the building he actually still owns of that Chicago building. Dead serious. But his entire stake, he was late on the payments, months late on the payments. They gave him 6 weeks as an extension. He couldn't make the payments, and then what happened? He sued Deutsche Bank for predatory lending practices for $3 billion. It kept him tied up in court for 2 years. And then they eventually came to an agreement with the other investment group, Deutsche Bank did, to forgive $240 million of his loan. How many, anybody in my chat room has $240 of a loan forgiven? For good Lord. Meanwhile, $240 million just fucking gone. And then, and then he wrote off, like, he would have had to pay taxes on that forgiven loan. Okay? That's the law. But his other businesses were doing so badly, he was able to write off making $240 million, because his losses in his other businesses were so enormous.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah,
I don't.
This is the
Yeah.
stuff. This is the stuff that we've got to change. Nobody throws the middle class American a friggin' bone. Doesn't happen. Hasn't happened since Truman. So it'd be nice. Be nice.
Until now. And again, the Biden administration and the House and Senate managed to pass an LLC Transparency Act around real estate that federally goes into effect January 1st. That is another reason why Donald Trump is fucking panicked. But we'll talk about that. I want you to come on. Next Monday is the holiday, so it'll obviously probably be the one after that. We'll catch up through this because it's not going to be a very Merry Christmas for Donald Trump, my friend. But I hope it is for you.
Well, I look forward to it, brother. I wish you a very happy holidays. I wish your guests, I wish all the people that are watching a happy holidays. I'm jealous. I'm telling you, I saw a thing the other night, and it had Henry Winkler in it. And I'm telling you, that guy right there, I remember when I was before I even started grade school, every morning my mother would wake me up and she'd get my two sisters ready for school. And I remember when they left and the bus took off, then the song Sunday, Monday, Happy Days. Right. I loved Happy Days. I love Ron Winkler. I think, Henry Winkler. I love the guy, man. The Fonz is the most awesome person. You are lucky you got to meet him. That's awesome. Yeah. Brother, I will see you in 2 weeks.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, brother. And don't forget to follow our dear friend, the Major, on all of his social medias, and as well as, by the way, our lovely, I always have to do like the technical stuff while I'm trying to chat. I don't even know why I pretend. You guys know exactly what I'm doing. I'm plugging in somebody so that they can be on here with me. And she's waiting in the background, and she's going to dunk on all of us. She's going to just go like, I man, and he held up my book, and that's very exciting. And I agree. I totally agree. But
yes.
Yeah. Oh, she can hear her. Hold on one second. I will do a click in there, and give me 1 second. There we go. And 3, 2, prepare yourself, people. She's looking particularly lovely today. There she is, Tara Dublin, who indeed does rocks. Oh, I forgot. I left out one thing on the below you. I don't know why. How dare I? Where is it? Hashtag Rip Portland. There we go.
Here's my ugly Christmas sweater.
Oh, that's impressive. I was
gonna wear it, but I didn't want it to distract for the whole show, but I figured we're not going to be talking to each other next Monday for the holiday.
Well, yes, that's true.
A Jewish girl can absolutely have a very ugly Christmas sweater. I'm very proud of this.
I completely agree. And thank you for not wearing it, because you would, obviously with your cut and your hair and your glasses, you'd give us all a very sexy Velma vibe. As
I do what I can.
Mm-hmm. We're aware. Hi, first of all,
Hi,
very exciting morning. I had the Major on first hour, very exciting, and you're here, and it's just a lovely, lovely, lovely thing, if I do say so my damn self. Now,
yes, you do.
On a couple of fronts, obviously the whole.
Are you seeing my shirt though? Are you seeing the full effect? Like, okay, wait 1 second. Let me see if I can readjust.
Gets so choppy. She's got Portland internet, which is
damn it. Where'd you?
These
all right, 1 second.
Fucking hippies in their granola internet.
Hold on.
You and your locally. Hold on. It says, "Fuck the Republicans."
It says, "Don't fuck Republicans."
Oh, don't fuck Republicans. I see. Don't fuck Republicans. Okay. All right. I sorry.
They don't know where the clitoris is. Just ask Mike Johnson.
Sure.
Oh, he's still looking for it. So.
I would like to say for the record that I think some of them know exactly where it is and stay very far away because women don't deserve pleasure. Yeah. And it's also
don't deserve anything.
If they start getting happy now, then what? Now, then they're going to want to be happy all the time. It's just a mess. You're opening up a can of worms. It's
But they're so in love with their misery that they don't like it when people try to show them that they don't have to be miserable. I guess I don't know what their deal is. There's my giant ball. Okay. Anyway, so I don't know what makes Republicans happy, but I don't know that I want to know.
At this point, isn't it just, aren't they just kind of like the adrenaline party and we're the dopamine party? I mean,
maybe, all they want to do is scare people. They don't care about taking care of people. If they cared about that, they would be doing their jobs instead of putting on, the Mar-a-Lago players present the impeachment of Joe Biden. It's like bad Florida dinner theater for an audience of one. So they don't care about governing. They don't care about taking care of people. They only care about their own bank accounts and their own craven political ambitions.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Agreed. Here's my thing.
Happy
Here's
holidays.
my thing about the fear versus the helping people thing is that I honestly, maybe they're totally out of practice or they have no interest in it, but I don't think they know how. So what else do you got? Again, I've heard Trump say all these horrifying things in his ridiculous little mini rallies that he's doing in these half-filled school gymnasiums. That are amazingly pathetic compared to what he used to brag about. It's just glorious to watch. But I've seen him bring up these enormous plans for the most and the biggest and very quickly, and all of it is going to happen so fast it'll make your head spin and all that, and yet not a single plan on any of it. Right? Not a single detail anywhere. I don't think he has any fucking idea how to do any of this stuff. Thank God.
He doesn't. It's always been about the empty promises. It's always been about keeping the base angry. And it's all a smokescreen to keep them that way. He can't even afford to throw them red meat anymore. He just stands there and be like, we're going to make it a global domination and we're going to do everything and blah, 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 get rid of all the bad people and I'll be the king, ruler, dictator forever. No, you won't. You didn't do shit when you were there. You tried to hold on to power. I mean, he was basically wrapping his arms around the columns of the White House and they had to pull him out by his baby ankles. So everything he says now, it's a smokescreen. He is trying to save his horrible orange face. It's not going to work. Except you and I know this. The major knows this. Your whole audience knows this. I would contend that a large segment of the Republican Party knows this, but they don't have anybody else who's going to stand up and get people motivated like Trump has, because Trump knows how to prey on everybody's weaknesses. He knows how to dial in and get people to become loyal. Like, I would love to know what he's got on Alina Habba, why he's taken her to the UFC appearance and not Melania. I want to know why Alina Habba thinks she's too pretty for prison, because she's not. And I've asked her repeatedly why she wants to go to prison for Donald Trump when he's not going to help her. Just ask Jenna Ellis. And she's not going to answer me. But it's all a show. And I think I want to believe that there are members of his base who know this, but they just can't admit it, because then it would be admitting, like the Fonz can't, that they were wrong. Can't admit it. They know, but it's true. I'm not going to keep dropping Fonz references.
I understand. I'm totally fine with that.
It is true, though. It's all tied into ego and what people think and what people are going to say and what people are going to write about him. But I think he has crossed the Rubicon, and he crossed it a long, long, long time ago. And you were talking about how he really doesn't own anything. He doesn't manufacture anything. He doesn't have a real home. He's squatting at Mar-a-Lago. He's going to be dropped into these like larger events. That's like why he showed up at UFC, because no one came to the high school gym. Right. So they're
he bogarts other people. Yeah, he bogarts other people's big crowds. Right.
That's what he's trying to do now. It's like, these people would be here with or without you. You just happened to show up while, the collective was, using their one IQ point to get a ticket to UFC. So, and I mean, I'm sure there are lovely, intelligent people who follow UFC. But when Joe Rogan is your color commentator, I would posit, I don't know, pick a different sport. Anyway. But it's all for show. It's always
Jamie, put
been
up
the Trump
Jamie,
show.
put up that thing on the screen that says that Tara was wrong. Jamie, put up on the big screen that that article I was reading and that video I watched about how Tara Dublin is always wrong. Can you find that? Thanks.
No, that doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. Oh, is that your Joe Rogan impression?
That's my Joe Rogan.
Impressive?
That's Joe Rogan. Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot. So, we just went through a week where Elon Musk let Alex Jones back on Twitter because he's not making any money. And the worst people think that they're taking over when all they're doing is making it really obvious that they don't have a single unifying vision or clue. So they don't have a true leader, which is why they follow all of these false pretend leaders, right? They can't admit they were wrong. They will never admit they were wrong. There's that core 20 something, 23% or something of them who will always remain loyal to him or whatever. But I was listening to you in the Major, and I think that you're so right in that his voters won't turn out if he's not on the ballot.
Nope.
Because they're going to think, what's the point? What's the point? No one else can beat Biden. Guess what? He can't beat Biden. He couldn't beat him before. What makes you think he can beat him now, considering if you actually look at the Biden record, it's fucking amazing.
Right.
And he's doing incredible things. Not that the MSM will tell you about that or anything Kamala Harris is doing, because it doesn't get you rage clicks. Eventually, people are going to catch on to the fact that he's a little too busy sitting in a courtroom to actually run for any office. I'll just keep waiting for that.
Yeah.
And I'll just keep reiterating that, because he will. He's going to play his accordion in front of court. Why wouldn't he exonerate himself? Why wouldn't he testify last Monday?
Right.
If he's innocent.
Well, because
if
he's
he's
a coward,
so innocent
obviously.
and transparent, because he's not. Right. So if you ask his base,
Yeah.
why didn't he show up? Because if you or I were falsely charged with 91 felonies, we would be there before court opened.
On the day, the day I wasn't testifying, I'd be outside the court holding a sign that says I'm innocent.
I'm innocent. Right. And here's all the proof I'm innocent. Here's all the proof.
Right.
Donald
it's online and on howsparksinnocent.org. I'm not even going to make money off of proving my innocence. How do you like them apples?
I mean, but the point is he has to keep the grift going, because he's so deeply in debt. He has no money of his own. So he has to keep the grift going. I mean, that last fucking thing where he was going to send off pieces of the tie he wore when he was arrested.
Suit. He's selling the whole suit.
The whole
selling the whole suit in a chunk. You have to buy. You have to buy like $5,000. Yeah, you have to buy $5,000 worth of NFTs, and you get a chunk of the suit, which is weird because most of the people who are buying that much of Trump NFTs are engaged in money laundering and don't want any physical traces.
Exactly. And I mean, I never understood.
Why doesn't he
NFTs
donate to a lonely maggot in a Winnebago, one of his front row Joes? For every $5,000 you buy, I'll give a torn piece of my suit to one of the freezing maggots in the front row who waited outside to hear me say the same rambly shit over and over again.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope, not going to do that. He's not going to help. He's not going to help
Yeah.
Rudy Giuliani pay
Right.
Ruby and Shay Moss $148 million.
Oh,
He's
so
not
good.
going to bail out.
That's right. We
Shanna
haven't
Ellis.
spoken. We haven't spoken since then. Oh,
That's correct. Rudy Colludi even in deeper duty now,
Right.
because if that, I mean, he doesn't have $148 million. He doesn't have $48. So,
right.
you know, I mean, neither
Well,
do I.
he has a
but
$6 million
I'm not being
apartment.
charged.
He's got a $6 million apartment you could sell.
Time to sell.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, I knew that all of this was coming, right? Eventually the House of Cards was going to fall apart because there's nothing holding it together.
Right.
And the fact that he stood on the street and was like, no, there's evidence. There's evidence that they changed votes. And his spokesperson is like, we need to get in the fucking car now.
Right.
So,
hey, stupid, you don't have any evidence or we would have been able to present it in court. And look, you know what? This is how the question being, of course, how stupid is Rudy Giuliani? He's this fucking stupid. His attorneys did not have to prove in court that Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss committed voter fraud or that they were doing any of that shit. All they had to do was prove that he had a reasonable belief to the extreme that he spoke about it from the information that he had. Well, he has all the information. His lawyers have all the information. They have everything. So the fact that they couldn't present even that, Your Honor, it's not that they actually did this. It's just that my client is so dumb that this was convincing. That's what it is.
Exactly.
They have to be able to go, he's so fucking stupid, he believed this. And they couldn't even do it.
Well, and it's not even that he's so stupid. He believed is that he's so compromised and owned by Trump. They had to say those things. And it's entirely possible that I mean, they all know what the actual truth is because they did it. So it's all about making sure no more people find out about it, which is way too late. Way too late. We all know what you did. We all know what you did. We have proof. We have the evidence. And it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many times you stand outside of a courtroom and yell bullshit.
Yeah.
It doesn't make Joe Biden impeachable.
Right.
Doesn't make Trump less guilty. You know, like, as long as you're continuing to live in, you know, here on Earth One, where facts matter, we're always going to be able to say, yeah, but that's not what happened.
Yeah.
That's not what happened. The Florida people don't have to believe it. Like, there's this Florida woman who was trolling me all day yesterday and saying all kinds of things that I'm stupid and not well read, even though I'm the author of a book and I don't know anything and I don't know this and I don't know that. But it's all projection. It's all projection, and anything they can now to try to preserve some semblance of dignity, which they never had to begin with.
Right.
But again, it's all about the appearances, and it's all about ignore that man behind the curtain. But we have not been ignoring him at all. We have always known the truth about him. We've always known the emperor had no clothes. We've all known it's been a dog and pony show in a game of 3-card Monty.
Yeah.
And he's caught. The walls are like this on him.
Yeah.
What else would you expect from a caged animal at this point?
Donald Trump is the political equivalent of a porch pirate in the age of Ring doorbell cams. He is
He's got nothing.
There's plenty of footage. There's plenty of stuff. And again, lately he's been getting more extreme in his speech because I think it's becoming a hum. I think it's becoming a blur at this point. You know what I mean? It's becoming kind of a, like, people, build wall, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, best economy, blah, blah. There's a bunch of that stuff where even the front row Joes and the people, they've heard it so many times. And then he's bitching about his legal woes that to get them back, he has to make promises that are off the fucking charts in terms of possibility, much less sanity. Right?
Yeah, I don't think Kash Patel is going to be running the FBI. I'm not particularly worried about that.
No, none of that is happening. And it's interesting that and again, if, let's just say, Trump gets in and he puts Kash Patel in charge of the FBI, I guarantee that is the first day in his life that Kash Patel goes, fuck, I'm the head of the FBI now. And I don't need Donald Trump anymore. I've got my own legacy to look out for. And therefore, if I ruin the FBI, I will have that on me, my name. They won't blame Trump for putting me in charge. They'll blame me. So I got to start moderating what I do here. Even if I'm doing favors for Trump, I got to make it look like I'm Chris Rang it around the edges, and then at that point he becomes a Democrat that just got him fucking coffee, and he never trusted him anyways, and he'd be nobody without me every time.
Right. Well, I mean, it's all the false bravado that their base expects. Right.
Yes.
They cannot ever admit they're losing. They still don't admit they lost. And again, we can go back to the point that you think he won the 2020 election as well as the 2016 election, then he's ineligible to run.
Yeah.
There's that part of it. There's that part of it. If you want to talk about the facts and the Constitution and the rules and FEC and all of that, for those of us, again, who live on Earth One. But if he's standing in front of people and he's telling them, hey, he made a speech in front of investors or something, and he was like, all of you are really, really rich. If you give me your money now, I'll make sure you get big tax breaks later. No, you won't. He's going to take your money and pay his lawyers.
Yeah.
Maybe, or I don't really know what he's going to do with any money that he gets, except maybe buy himself some more filet of fish and stack them away so that he has something to eat in his Howard Hughes years. I don't know.
Excuse me, Fish Delight.
It's a Fish Delight now?
No, it's always been that. See, you don't understand. This is a true story. Donald Trump thinks that the Filet-O-Fish from McDonald's is called a Fish Delight. No one knows where he came up with that. Nobody knows why he thinks that, but he asks for it all the time. And it's in like 3 books about how they sent staffers out, by the way, written by Trump sycophants, who are like, well, we never bring it off because he's the boss. If you're right, and he's right, whatever. They send out staffers to get Fish Delights, and they think it's like the McRib, like a version of the Filet-O-Fish, but they only do it part of the year or something. So they're all standing there fucking sweating bullets in line at McDonald's, looking up on the menu and asking where the Fish Delight is, and getting laughed out of McDonald's after McDonald's after McDonald's.
God.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
Right. I love that.
He can't get the name of a McDonald's sandwich correctly. I
Right.
guarantee he can't name all
That he
6
eats
of
all
his
the time.
grandchildren, if any of them.
Right.
So, he doesn't know how anything works. He doesn't know
Nope.
what anything is. He couldn't
Mhm.
show up to anywhere unless he had somebody leading him.
Mhm.
He's so addled and sundowning. He doesn't
Mhm.
know where he is most of the time. That's your guy?
Right.
Okay. But tell me that Joe Biden is old. Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
It's so fucking stupid, and it's
Yeah.
so like, do any of them ever progress out of the 4th grade bully mentality? No, they don't. And I'm
Right.
just exhausted by that whole thing because no
Glory
one wants to listen to the
days.
truth. Well, it's not, the truth is just not that sexy. It's not
Right.
sexy to report on the great things Kamala Harris is doing. No. It's way better to say Nikki Haley is creeping up on Trump in the polls. Who gives a fuck? Republicans are not going to vote for a woman of color. They're
Mhm.
not. They won't even say Kamala Harris's first name correctly. Do you think they're really going to rally behind Nimrata? No, they are not.
Right.
The reality is just so hard for them that they have to keep making up bullshit. If they had any sense, they would get Chris Christie to step up right now, and they would stand behind him because he is literally the only Republican candidate who has a platform and can speak the truth about Trump without shriveling up if someone says, well, if he's the nominee, are you going to support him? No, Chris Christie will not. I don't think.
That is,
and he won't be the nominee anyway. So, like,
no, but they can, right.
We have to be the
Go ahead,
normalization voices of truth.
Agree.
Or we have to try anyway, right?
Right.
Still have to try.
Yes. Sorry, I have to make one minor change so that I irritate the right people.
Okay. I like irritating the right people.
I was talking about this a little bit with the major, and I don't know if you saw it, but in the Iowa polls and in the New Hampshire polls that have happened recently, and it might be one of the reasons why he ran off to Nevada.
Nevada.
Yeah, he calls it Nevada.
If you're
even
from
after
the Northeast, you can.
It's Nevada.
I say Nevada also because I also say pajamas.
Right, but you're not running for office in the state and saying the proper pronunciation is Nevada and going, if you pronounce it Nevada, you get laughed out of the state, when the exact opposite is true. Nobody in Nevada gives a shit how anybody pronounces it until you're running to run the place. And then it kind of matters, right? And then you could, because we have this state is mostly visitors. Let me just say.
Right.
So anyways, since the debates, which he did not show up for and tried to counter program, Fox allowed him to counter program, right? Temporarily. Since that time, DeSantis has slipped, but Nikki Haley has overtaken DeSantis's highest watermark number in the Iowa caucuses and in New Hampshire, in a couple of different polls. And I think, and Chris Christie is now in double digits in every poll since the last debate. Double digits. He was never at 4%, 5%, right? That was the thing. Everyone said, okay, neither one of those groups of voters is going to vote for Donald Trump next time around. If he's the nominee, they're not showing up. That's what they're saying with that. They don't, especially the Chris Christie votes. The 14% he's supposedly getting in Iowa, if you really are you buying what Chris Christie is selling, you're in a fuck Trump mood. You're not going to show up for this guy. And that is a statistically significant number of Republican voters.
And I'm not a person who believes in polls, but I mean, that's an indicator. That is an indicator that the tide is turning and that opinion is shifting. And some people are like, I can't justify continuing to support someone who is found liable of rape. Maybe they get there. I don't know. It's the 91 criminal, the felonies against him, the fact that he's going to be in court. He's not done with this trial and has to rematch with E. Jean next month. More defamation, more liability.
More money
and then
lost.
It just keeps going.
And probably a much bigger number because he's not.
Look at his court calendar. Just look at it.
Right.
There's no time to campaign. None.
And whereas some Trump voters seem to have this kind of haze about them, like they're just attacking him. They're not specifying the difference in charges and the difference in seriousness of the civil versus criminal. They're just going, the deep state, right? But
Hunter Biden's laptop, Benghazi, anything, any Pizzagate, anything.
Right. Yeah. But the other half, and that's, I think, this growing number that we're talking about, one of those cases, or maybe a couple of them, stand out to them, and that's the last straw. That was the last straw. Most of them, it's the documents case. Some of it's Jan 6, and I think there's maybe a slice of the folks that are like, wow, he really isn't a billionaire. This was all bullshit, right? I think that's that chunk, right? That's the group who are never going to vote for him again, who have just blown that part off. And they might be loud about what he wants, or they might even verbally support him, someplace. They might even caucus for him and then bounce over if he's losing. But they're not going to vote in New Hampshire. They're not going to vote in the general for him. They're not going to get up off their ass, especially if they're busy going to football games and that kind of stuff, which I don't know if you've seen the attendance figures for live events, but holy fucking shit. And thanks, Martin, for the super chat. By the way, since it's the, sort of, we're halfway through, but give a like to the stream if you like the fact that Tara's here and you want me to be able to keep asking her to come on, because we gotta grow the numbers so it's worth her while. You know what I mean? She can't be slumming on the internet.
It's always worth my while to talk to you, Hal. Come on. It's not about numbers for me.
I'm trying to get them to click a button. It's not. I don't believe that about you. I think
click that button.
Yeah, see, there you go.
After you click that, click the button, and then when I'm gone, then go to my website and buy my book. Henry Winkler has
there's
my
no shame
book.
Right. But I will say, the games are all selling out, even for teams that suck. It's amazing. It's and that is specifically an indicate that is the biggest panic point for Republicans right now. That's why Trump was like, the stock market's doing great for rich people. Like, asshole, it's only reaching this improvement, this level, because of retail investors, because of the Robin Hood crowd that we all heard about, meme stocks and all that kind of shit coming out of COVID and all that. Like, that's why it's doing well.
Recovery is real.
Right.
It's real.
Yeah.
The Biden administration has done an amazing turnaround, considering what he walked into in January, after, in January 2021, after he was inaugurated. That's why he sat down immediately and started signing all of those executive orders, like, get this out of here, go, 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 because it's such a huge mess to clean up, and he has more work to do in his second term.
That's
to continue on the promises and the momentum that he's been building so far.
Yeah,
and
the damage Trump did. A lot of this is foundational. A lot of what Biden is doing this time, and Democrats are always doing this. The first Obama term, you could argue, with the exception of getting the Affordable Care Act passed, but I would argue that the whole dug by Republican policies around healthcare for decades had created the need for it, so it still qualifies. But the first term was an acute, rearranging of so many economic factors and trying to pull the country back from a depression that there and that might be in terms of the Republicans collapsing shit on their way out the door, a feature, not a bug for them. But Obama spent the first 4 years just rebuilding shit, and still made progress. Yep, every time.
We're always cleaning up Republicans' messes. When are Americans going to catch on to that already?
Right. Yeah.
When? Because that's what we do. We come in, you made the mess. It's like they have a big, shitty, gross, cocaine-fueled orgy and leave the floors all sticky and disgusting, and there's used condoms hanging off of light bulbs and all grossness. Democrats come in and we put the gloves on and we put the mask on and we do the icky, dirty work and clean shit up to make everything better for everybody else. And Republicans are like, what'd you do with our mess?
Right. The mess is what we're shooting for, because it scares off the right people. That's the idea.
Exactly.
By the way, speaking of a drug-filled orgy, the Moms for Liberty story just gets more and more gross.
I love it
all the time.
I love it. They all have me blocked on Twitter. They're such fucking Trumpocrats, and everything they say is projection. But this one is like, wow.
Yeah. So this guy, Ziegler, I love the fact that his first name is Christian Ziegler.
Right. And even Matt Gaetz won't be associated with him. Right. Now. That's how bad it is.
Matt Gaetz blew him off almost as bad as he blew off the QAnon shaman backstage at the Talking Points USA event.
I saw that, and I let the QAnon shaman know that's what happens when you're a fucking traitor trying to chase clout from your fellow fucking pedophile traitor.
Right. Right.
Is it a good look for either of you? I don't know. You all look like a bunch of fucking assholes because you are. Right. So, why is the QAnon shaman there?
Well, because he's
posing with
Ted,
Marjorie.
I don't know, because Ted Nugent was busy at a county fair. The point is,
and George Santos is preparing for court while he's doing cameos.
And then the next court, and then the next court, and the next court. Christian Ziegler. So Christian Ziegler. Was the head of the Florida GOP, right? He was the chairman of the Florida GOP, and his wife ran Moms for Liberty. And the Florida, it was really fascinating. So most of the story was about his wife and her being the head of Moms for Liberty, which I find, quite frankly, kind of misogynistic because he's the one who did the raping. Like, she was engaged in she's engaged in the hypocrisy of being a sexual libertine in the face of, Christian conservatism and them hiding their kind of swinger lifestyle, which you and I also, we don't give a fuck. Nobody would care. If she was, if this was a Democratic couple and they were in like a three-way relationship with something or whatever, and she ran up, Moms for Democracy, none of us would give a fuck because she wouldn't be trying to take women's rights away. She wouldn't be a cultural road flare, but also she would, she'd be running something to try to teach kids to vote eventually when they get old enough or whatever. And if her husband committed a sexual assault, Democrats would go, it's not her fault, it's his fault. I don't give a shit that they were involved in this. He sexually assaulted the woman in their three-way partnership because that woman was more into his wife. That was what the reasoning she gave. Right. So, and like this has landed soundly on her shoulders largely because, again, it's hypocrisy, it's hiding or whatever. And on that scale, which I think is in the sort of like orange zone of the needle, it's worth talking about, right?
Yeah,
this
for sure.
motherfucker, though, this guy is in the red zone. He went to this woman's house because she didn't want to have sex with him without his wife present because she was into the three-way thing or whatever. And so he went to her house and he went to her house and assaulted her. Like that's off the scale. That's pegging the needle red. Fuck that. And it's weird to me that she gets brought up more than him. Like Moms for Liberty and her get brought up more than I think the entire Florida GOP and the fucking head of it. And how'd they try to get rid of him? So they reduced his salary to $1, hoping he'd quit.
Well, he probably already has millions of dollars already, so that's not worrying for him. No. I don't know how much he's worth, but it's so much easier to blame a woman, isn't it? Women have been their scapegoats forever, so it's completely easy to blame her. Well, my wife did this, and you made this woman fall for her, and it's my wife's fault that I'm a fucking idiot pervert. No, it isn't. Right. Like all of the Moms for Liberty have me blocked on Twitter.
Sure.
Because they're so brave. And again, the same people who are trying to like spin this story are sure having fun with the Senate room and the anal sex that happened in there, that Ben Cardin's staffer who filmed himself having sex, who was immediately fired, by the way, because Democrats are like, you break a rule, you're gone.
Yeah.
There is just that hypocrisy.
Consensual sex, by the way, I might add.
Consensual
sex, right?
Perhaps not. Go to your office, lock the door. You know, if you need to get busy at the Capitol, if you just can't wait till you get home.
Look, we're all excited by democracy.
Do it where the laws are made. Stop that. But anyway.
Yeah.
The fact that they're just walking Florida. That's all they are. The Moms for Liberty are like, how can we Florida the whole country? And that's what we're seeing. And so, I mean, there will always be that hypocrisy. Right. I don't know that they will see any. What do you think is going to happen to them? People are going to be like, well, just choose a better throuple partner. I mean, what are they going to do?
Well, he'll, if the allegations are carried through and he's charged, because this didn't happen that long ago. This isn't like what we're seeing in New York, which is like victims finally getting their say after years have passed and they're coming out of,
like Eugene.
Finally. Yeah, right. Because they'll feel safe to do it and there's, a protection for it. There's a limited window on it. This is recent. So he can be charged. This is a crime that just occurred.
Well, I hope he is. Because it's about, it's about consequences and they never get any. So if we can see some, that'd be great.
And I got news for you. If she still runs a Moms for Liberty organization after she's left him, if they'll have her or whatever, I don't care. I don't think they're right. I don't. She can do whatever the hell she wants.
But she shouldn't be anywhere near a school board.
Right. And the idea that somehow that as a matter of fact, I hope she does, because I like the idea that they constantly have to deal with this, because it's like the Hunter Biden behind closed doors comment that they all have to make now. Hunter Biden shows up at the Capitol to testify in public, and so now everybody that says he won't testify has to put this little asterisk sentence right next to it, behind closed doors, in private,
right.
Whichever one it is.
Right.
And it's so great watching them all eat that shit sandwich live on the air. Just like Hunter Biden wouldn't show up to talk.
He wouldn't show up to let us change the narrative to make us look slightly better. There's no way that's happening. There is no way. If you are truly in the belief that Hunter Biden did things that are so terrible that he needs to come testify before Congress, everybody should hear it. Everybody should be aware of it. You should have nothing to hide. But you're just going after him because Donald Trump's daddy didn't love him, and Donald Trump doesn't love his own son. So, it's all a show and a smokescreen, and it's just the wasting of our time and our taxpayer dollars is insane. And I would also, going back to the Moms for Liberty, I don't know if you saw it, but there is a TikTok going viral because there's this guy that showed up who was like, you're terrible at your job, and you did this and you did that, and you should lose your job because you send your children to private school because you don't believe in the Florida public school system. I don't think you should lose your job because you had sex with a woman, because your private life is none of our business. You should lose your job because you're bad at your job.
Yeah, exactly.
And if more people said that to Republicans, that'd be nifty, because it isn't about your private life. It's about your public facing life and what you actually do with the job that you have. And if you're using your position to ruin everything for everybody else because you're in a fucking cult, you should lose your job. Not because you like to do it with ladies and gentlemen. I don't give a shit. Nobody cares.
Right.
Nobody cares if Lindsey Graham is gay. Kristen Welker, why don't you ask him how he got compromised by Donald Trump instead of being like, what do you think about this Biden impeachment? I would like the MSN, particularly MSNBC. Could you tell us the truth? That's your job. That's your job. Can you tell us that instead of being like, I'm right? Give me Kristen Welker's job for one episode of Meet the Press. Schedule Lindsey Graham, schedule any member of the Trump family, and then I'd be done.
I want the setup.
I would make my point.
I want the setup to be like bringing in all these people and asking hypotheticals that are aimed directly at them. Let's just say a senator was hiding their sexuality for decades, and then they were finally outed in this on national television. I'm not saying this is, has happened lately or is going to happen in a couple of seconds, but if it were to happen, how would you feel about where that person's options? Should they be allowed to continue to serve? Should they be, and does it depend on the party? And obviously this is a hypothetical, but let's just say they were being interviewed by a person who was about to show a video of them that was compromising that they managed to find. And that person had sort of like a soft heads up. And just watch the beads of sweat start pouring down Lindsey Graham's face.
Oh, wouldn't it be glorious? Wouldn't it be glorious? If I had the opportunity, I will never have the opportunity to speak to Lindsey Graham, ever. And I know this. He will never respond to me on Twitter. No one ever answers his office phones because no one wants to take any responsibility for working for Lindsey Graham.
Sure.
But I believe that, because we all remember Lindsey Graham was a very vocal critic of Donald Trump's prior to the 2016 election. Even after, he's like, I don't know about this guy. I don't know. Then he goes to the golf course and he comes back. Oh, Trump's not that bad. So my vision is they're on the golf course. Trump is teeing up, and he's like, so Linz, what's that photo I saw of you? Oh, it'd be terrible if that got out. Clunk.
Right.
And then he misses the hole, and then he walks over and he kicks it into the hole. So Lindsey Graham knows that Donald Trump has this compromise on him that could get out. And that's why he becomes loyal. If I was Kristen Welker and I was given the privilege of hosting Meet the Press, I wouldn't be pussyfooting around anything. I'd be like, so Linz, what happened that day on the golf course? Clunk. What happened? So Linz, I don't care how gay you are. I don't care how many closets full of fainting couches you have in your home. As long as your lover person was over the age of consent, and you were both consenting in your actions, and your ladybugs are happy, I don't care. What I care about is you allowed your self-hatred at being gay to let Trump compromise you. You let him use your weakness against you. That is the one good thing Donald Trump is good at. He can find, just like Elon Musk, he can spot the weakness and then exploit it to his own advantage. And that's why we're here. Because he was able to do that. Boom, boom,
specifically, boom. Specifically, this is why I believe that not only is an open society as far as people's sexuality and being able to be who they are a good thing, and it's just normally good and healthy for society, it's better for national security. Because if you can serve in the military and be gay, no spy can meet you in and work up a relationship with you and then go, if you don't do what we say, we're going to let everybody know you're gay, and then you're going to go to fucking Leavenworth. Right. But I again, it applies to, it's one of the reasons why, trans rights in the military, gay rights in the military, all that kind of stuff are crucial to national security, and why it's really bad for national security that Republicans insist on people being in the closet, because it is an easily exploitable weapon that our enemies can use against certain people, especially in their party, which, is again why, of all the I guess leaks that we've seen that have led to spies dying or plans leaking out, they have been coming from Republicans or Republican sympathetic groups for decades. Where it used to be, think back to Vietnam or something like that, it would be a Democrat leaning thing because people were concerned about, or even to some degree some of the WikiLeaks stuff or whatever. But when you talk about stuff that is has been snuck around, especially at Trump's house and him releasing stuff to the Russians and all that kind of stuff, and any number of compromised people.
Or burying them with his ex-wife.
Right, which, again, is she in there? She was cremated.
I don't think so.
Who puts ashes in a coffin?
Well, and I had a tweet kind of blow up the other day because I said, nobody buries cremains. And people were like, cite your proof she was cremated. Cite your proof she's not in there. And I'm like, 14 burly Russian pallbearers with her coffin. Like, oh, this is so heavy. She was 5'9" and weighed $1.25, if that, right? Even if her whole body was in that coffin, it would maybe take, I don't know, 4 guys. And none of her pallbearers were related to her either. That's
such a weird thing.
That's suspicious, right? And it's heavy. Even if she was cremated, and even if they did put the box in the coffin, which is weird because that's not usually what people do, a box of cremains is not heavy. Doesn't matter if you could take a 500-pound person and their cremains would still be in a box that I could lift.
We have one in our house right now, and my mom has 2 in her house.
And I'm guessing she could move them around easily without asking 14 Russians to come and help her.
Yeah, ironically, to dust.
So again, I would say it's time to exhume whatever's buried there under the unkempt grave near the first hole at Bedminster, because it's not her. I don't think it's her. It could be some of her just to justify doing it, but the rest of it is all that shit that they still can't find.
The the big binder full of stuff.
I'd love to be proven.
The Russian compromise, documents.
Whatever they didn't find at Mar-a-Lago.
Well, you know about the binder, right? You've heard that recent story about
absolutely, it's in there.
The missing unredacted one. The redacted ones, there was like 7 versions of it floating around while they were redacting stuff, and I find this very specifically telling.
Dig her up.
In the process of redacting this, they had a couple of days where they were going through and they were redacting elements of it, of what Trump wanted to declassify from that binder, right? That was all that stuff that linked him to Russia. And so they were going to go through and now, if you're just redacting the names and some of the methods, it's a fairly solid process. You can actually, there's a staff there that can do it for you, right? But it wasn't. It was Mark Meadows and in a room with Trump and maybe Jenna Ellis or one other person, whoever the fuck was in that room, separate from the lawyers, by the way, that were fighting to keep him in office, right?
Right. And Sidney Powell was there too, because you saw her at the White House.
Right.
So she did
during
stuff.
during that period, the original version vanished. And I find it very telling that they were not able to complete the redactions for him to release it in time, which means, because he believed this shit. Remember, he was telling this thing. I could prove. I have the evidence. They have all this information. He knew that document existed, and he was going to release it. He talked about doing it for a fucking year and a half. Remember that? He talked about releasing that shit since the end of the Mueller report. But they somehow couldn't find a way to redact it and release it that didn't make him look guilty or worse, or make people go, why the fuck is that whole page black? Right? Well, you know, because his fans were going to expect like email addresses, and phone numbers, and then some names, and that's it. But like when they realize, oh shit, we're going to have to redact half this fucking thing, or people are going to go, actually, it looks like he was pretty fucking tied in with these assholes. This looks like a reasonable case against him.
It's a weird way for innocent and transparent people to behave, I tell you.
And then the original just disappeared. The only thing that's left is the redacted. Like, that's fucking
weird.
Yeah, and again,
it's in the ground.
Pretty heavy binder. And I mean, I guess if you're gonna put it somewhere, that's where you would put it. That's the stuff that he doesn't want to sell or move around. Any of the stuff that proves that he was, you know, it's hidden someplace because or burned or shredded or dropped off a fucking
or buried. And that's what he's not waving those around at a Mar-a-Lago pool party to show off for the Australian Prime Minister or whatever.
Yeah,
he's not doing that. So
the head of the cardboard.
But again, exactly. The unfortunate thing is anyone who's still loyal to him doesn't have any of this kind of deep thinking process or critical thinking skills or any
they're as guilty as he
curiosity.
Is. They do, but they know they're fucked if it gets out.
Exactly. But like his remaining supporters who are out there on Twitter going, well, he had every right as president to declassify. And it's not like every time they say that, I think of Michael Scott on The Office going, I declare bankruptcy. Because what did he do? I declare them unclassified.
Right.
That's not how it works.
No.
That's not how
he knows it doesn't work that way.
So,
look, I pointed out, we've gone through this obviously on the live stream a bunch of times, and he keeps saying this or whatever, but the fact that his attorney returned any documents at all in a red-welled envelope means that he knows and they know that they had not declassified anything. They still had classified documents, or they wouldn't have had to return them that way. They could have fucking posted them on the internet and let the government look at them. Because if they're technically declassified, they're for public consumption. You don't even need a FOIA fucking request. That's why I made one. And I said I would like I requested all government documents that Trump took with him. A copy of any document that he took to Mar-a-Lago, because he says they're all declassified. Do you think I was able to get those? No.
I don't. I'm guessing no.
Yeah. So, and again, the red velvet envelope is proof of guilt. The other thing, too, is that he lied to his attorney, and they spent those 2 weeks between when he told his attorney to write up this thing that we haven't taken anything, where they had the red weld envelope, to like come back in 2 weeks and look through these boxes, and then you can give him whatever you find. And during that 2 weeks, they brought him boxes into his office. Waltine Nada brought him in there with the other people, and they fucking on camera. So, and they have the footage now. That's why he tried to erase it and then flood the fucking server room. He was pulling shit out that he hid between pictures of himself in these fucking boxes. And so the only stuff, I'm sure there's stuff that he still wants because he thinks it's his get out of jail free card. It's some compromise on somebody, and it's the one thing that he thinks if I let this out, they're fucked. Well, I got news for you. The Epstein flight logs are all online. They have been for a while now. They all came out in Ghislaine Maxwell's trial. They all had to be posted. They're all there. Nobody's hiding them. Nobody can't get access to them. And you know who flew 6 more times under the radar with Epstein? It was and here's how many members of the Biden family flew on Epstein's plane fucking ever. Yeah, 0. Ever. Not ever. Not a single member of the Biden family ever, not ever. Trump flew 6 more times than we already knew he flew with him. And apparently had a habit of insisting later on that they write a different name in the log for him. So they would just be like random.
Again, that's a weird way for an innocent and transparent person.
It's very fucking weird. It's very fucking weird. Yeah.
It's, if you don't have anything to hide, show up in court and say so. He had the chance last Monday. He
did.
had a chance.
So did Rudy.
Monday,
didn't do it.
And he decided to not show up and exonerate himself with facts and truth that could make him look all innocent and super, and he didn't show up. Anybody who has even a basic passing knowledge of how laws work in the United States of America would be like, that's a little sus for me.
Yeah.
Even the dumb, willfully obtuse maggots who probably were like having little tiny micro boners. He's going to show up and he's going to
show them.
He's going to show them all. And then he didn't. And you're still loyal. You're still loyal. What about the ones he promised pardons to who didn't get pardons?
Right.
And they're still loyal. Why is that, Marjorie?
Oh, the hostages, you mean?
You're getting,
the hostages?
Yeah, what do you think you're getting? What do you think you're getting, Marjorie? He hasn't rewarded your loyalty as of yet. What do you think you're getting?
By the way, the Jan 6 hostages that were taken hostage in large part while he was president. That didn't occur to him. That these are.
Has he sent any money to the J6
no.
prisoners fund? Of course not.
Oh, no. Also,
why don't people catch on? So fucking stupid.
I think. I do think. Here's the thing. I do think people are. I do think these poll trends around him. Again, his support has been cut in half. He's at 46% in Iowa. That's
we
below
talked
50.
about that last week.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is a thing, and it's freaking him the fuck out. And again, I think there are a bunch of people who they troll voted for him, or they bought into the whole businessman idea that he's a businessman. We need to run this country like a business, which we fucking well do not, because you can't fire the poor or women who are having a miscarriage. It doesn't work that way. Government doesn't work. You don't govern like a business, dumbass. The profit of a country is the wellness of its citizens, not how much money it has left over.
We all said that in 2015 and 2016. Nobody wanted to fucking listen to us.
Well, almost everybody did, except for 75,000 progressive, pseudo maggots who, in 3 key states, stayed home or left Hillary's name unchecked.
We need to get rid of the Electoral College. God damn it! Why have we not gotten rid of the Electoral College yet? It's just so antiquated and racist and bullshit.
Well, eventually, what you'll have is you're going to have economic zones as a different version of the Electoral College that will grow out probably 2 decades. It's going to trend that way, that instead of states getting it by a number of them, it'll be about population and the economic value of it, because the big rich blue cities are going to be tired of paying for the blue states, who then turn right around and somehow get more control over the government than they have earned through the will of the people. So that's a trend, but it'll take a while, because that will require an amendment. That said, Trump himself at this point, I've only seen clips of it, and I'm going to do it later on tonight. Tony Franklin's going to be on the pod later on my show for the first hour, and then the second hour I'm going to roll into Trump's latest speech and just do that tonight, along with a couple other pokes. But
speech,
he's a fucking mess. Like, just catching the parts of that, like it's getting so bad that there is no way they're not noticing. Believe me, his supporters, they have these crowd revelers that are there that get people to cheer for him now, like it's a fucking applause sign in an old talk show.
Right.
And they have to, because everybody there is like, what the fuck is this? It's exactly. I'll point out a couple. Sorry, did I say Tony Michaels? Sorry, did I I said Tony Franklin. He's the bass. Sorry, Tony Franklin's the bass player for Blue Murder. That's the way my brain works. Tony Michaels. Anyways, so I was like, I'm going to say this wrong, but anyways, doesn't matter. Anyways, so Tony Michaels will be on later on, and then I'm going to go into that speech. But even the little pieces that I have seen of it, because I avoid it because I like watching it with everybody, and they have to suffer through it along with me. It is the worst so far, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah, it is. He's just, it's honestly, no one cares about him as a human being enough to stop him. Nobody does. And that's right. And not that he listens to anyone, but if there was literally one person in his life who actually cared and actually loved him instead of trying to get what they could from him, they would gently say, hey, you're crazy. And this is bad for you, your family, your family's legacy, whatever legacy you think you've got.
Yeah.
Stop it now. Now, the only thing he could do right now to save face is say something to the something along the lines of, all right, I have discovered I'm too much of a distraction. What I have going on, I'm going to fight them in court. I'm going to fucking fight them with you. And we're going to be an army fighting together. But while I'm in this fight, I'm going to let so-and-so take over the party. And then when they're done, I'm going to be their vice president. I'm going to let this person run. And then I'm going to take care of this court stuff. And right before the election, I'm going to step up and be his VP. That's one way he could try to get. I'm not trying to help him. But what I'm saying is he's going to need to acknowledge in some way that running a campaign is not feasible. It's not profitable and it's not successful. And he cannot be seen as a failure. So in his way, he's going to have to figure out a way to spin taking a step back from actively campaigning because he's in court. Instead, he's going to appoint some sort of surrogate to run in his place, and then they could be some sort of like dream team. I don't know. I just made that up. But I think it's about he has to figure some way out of it, and he doesn't have a way out. So he's constantly spinning the wheels trying to figure out, which is why he's bloviating on the spot and he's making shit up and he's not making any sense. Because in his mind, he's thinking, how the fuck do I get out of this?
Yeah.
I've always gotten out of everything my whole life. I can't get out of this one. So when again, a caged animal will strike at anything and try anything to stay alive. So this is where we're at now. And like, he's like a dying badger or something in the corner.
Yeah.
Like, I just, my survival instinct. It's because he can't, it's his ego has been leading him through his whole life. And now he doesn't have anything to back it up.
No.
He doesn't.
Well, here's the thing.
Empty bill of goods.
His ego would never let him do the backseat part of it and run that through. So I don't see that ever happening. I think I think that's a game plan that other people might be running, and then they would walk up to him and suggest it, and then walk away knowing full well how he would react to it. Because again, it's gibberish.
There's going to come a point where he realizes that his clock ran out like 8 months ago or something.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
The issue, I think, most of all is that, and I don't get why Republicans can't just relax in this. If his polls are doing so well because he's indicted and it's actually helping him, and Joe Biden beat him, running from his basement and never having to leave. What, Trump can't campaign against Joe Biden from the hallway outside a courtroom? The other dude beat you out of his basement. Yeah.
Is that where you want? Is that where you want your GOP nominee campaigning? Or wouldn't you rather send someone like Christie around the country to talk to voters and make your appearances and try to make your party look like it's trying to redeem itself? I don't know. There's the MAGA faction of the Republican Party that's never coming back. And then there are still, and I would posit that he has more control over House Republicans than Senate Republicans. Because even with Lindsey Graham being owned by him, Lindsey Graham was on TV yesterday saying, I don't see a Biden smoking gun. I don't see a reason to impeach him. So with Senate Republicans not being as scared of him as House Republicans are, which I'd love to know that reason. Again, it's all, but seriously, what House Republicans can't do enough for him. And Senate Republicans are like, what are you doing? And Senate Democrats are like, you're impeaching Biden? That's cute. Let's see what happens. Because it's not going to, what do you think's going to happen?
Right.
It's not going to get anywhere. Like you can vote to impeach him in the House. He's not going to get impeached in the Senate. They're not going to vote to impeach Joe Biden with a Democratic majority, you fucking idiots. Stop putting on the smokescreen show. We can totally see right through it.
Right.
Because your base is so stupid, you think that this is going to be successful. You're just dragging out the inevitable.
Well, I think there's an argument amongst Republicans that by backing Trump, they're backing what he's yelling about. And it's the only way they're getting their ideas or whatever addressed, or some sort of fantasy that this policy is going to play out. Now, granted, just like it was always infrastructure week and there was his healthcare plan was always 2 weeks away, it never fucking happened. Right?
Nothing happens with him. Nothing except more bad things.
That's right.
And
so
why haven't you caught on that all the promises are empty?
Right.
What's he done for you personally?
Again,
because you can't say anything nice about him.
Well, that's the thing. At this point, is it really about him running and winning? Was it ever about him running and winning? Or is it just about an airing of the grievances? Is this some
he's
sort
walking Festivus. He's a walking Festivus pole.
Absolutely.
Like, should be shoved up his own ass.
Right. Yeah.
I can make references. Anyway.
Yes, you absolutely can. All right, we're at the end of the show. We have to remind everybody about your book, The Sound of Settling. And
can I just brag about Henry Winkler for 1 second?
Yeah.
Can I brag? I sent the photo.
Yes.
So last Tuesday, after you and I,
go ahead.
We spoke last Monday. I told you I was looking forward to some good stuff last week. And Tuesday night, Henry Winkler was here in Portland promoting his book, Being Henry. And he was at this venue called Revolution Hall. And I happened to know the owner and one of the managers, because one of the managers is in our Low Bar Corral band. And I said to him, is there a world where I can get into this show? Because I can't afford the ticket. And he got me the last slot on the guest list. And his book did not come free with it, but a generous benefactor made sure I got his book. And I didn't know if there was going to be there I am.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if there was going to be a meet and greet, but I still brought a copy of The Sound of Settling with me just in case, because you never know. And Henry was wonderful, and he told lots of stories, and they really couldn't do a whole Q&A with him because he spoke so long. And then they announced that Henry was offered to take photos with everybody in the audience after the show. And that show was sold out.
Yeah.
Sold out, and he offered to stay and take pictures. Now, not everybody stayed. Like, why wouldn't you? I would have waited 3 hours if I had to. Fortunately, I didn't. And so in the 45 seconds or so that I had with him, he had been talking about, accomplishments and all of the things and how hard, when you work and you accomplish something, how important it is. And I was like, hi, I'm Tara Dublin. We interacted on Twitter, and you're an amazing mensch, and I love you, and you're wonderful, and you talked about accomplishments, and I also went to Emerson College like you did, and here's my accomplishment. And he was like, that's a big deal. Congratulations. Good for you. And I said, I signed it for you, this for you. And we took the picture, and he placed it on a table, and I said, you can't give it away because I autographed it for you, being all cute. And then I went home and I started reading his book. And on the 3rd page, it's like, he talks about how dyslexic he is and how reading is not now, never will be, and never will be his forte. And I'm like, I'm so glad I gave you my book. But I tweeted to him, thank you. And he tweeted a response, thank you so much. He thanked me for giving him my book, because
he's that kind of person.
Winkler is that person. He is a mensch. I have read his whole book. It's wonderful. Everybody should buy Henry Winkler's book, because what he has he had not loving parents. Here's a juxtaposition between him and Trump. Okay. Trump's parents fucking hated him, didn't encourage him, didn't love him, didn't show him any affection, nothing. And he turned into Donald Trump. Henry Winkler's parents, German, escaped Europe right before the Holocaust. His parents were cold, unloving, didn't praise him, told him he was stupid because his dyslexia wasn't diagnosed until he was 34.
Right.
And Henry Winkler still turned into Henry Winkler.
Yep.
He is still loving and has done a lot of self-work around it. And if you have enough curiosity about the world or about your own self as to why you feel this way, or why you do this, or why your parents were like this, or all of the why in the world, that requires self-awareness, curiosity, not just about yourself, but the world at large. And that's Henry Winkler in a nutshell.
Yeah.
He's loves people.
He's such an amazing man.
To people.
Yeah.
He is so generous with himself, with his time. I have no idea if he's going to read this book. He has it in his hands is what matters. He's a producer. His son Max is a producer and a director. We're Jewish. We're mishpucha. We're fam. All I would say is, Henry, just share it. Share the love. We share the love of you. I don't know. I don't know anymore, Hal, but what I do know is I still can't pay my January rent because no one has hired me or signed me to a production deal. So here we are a week before Christmas. The little match girl of the internet is asking, the little Jewish match girl, by the way, asking for a Christmas miracle. Either I have the Venmo, I have my Substack, I have my book, I have an Amazon wish list, but mostly I have the desire to work for a living. And Henry says this in his book also. I love working. I love being paid to work. I love being, I'm more proud of myself when I'm working and doing a job. I don't want to hand out. I want to hand up, and that's all I want to do. And it should not be this hard for good and talented people to get ahead in this world, because we have such this wave of evil pushing back. And anytime I promote my book on Twitter, there's always some fucking troll who's like, well, I just gave you 1 star because your book is terrible and it put me to sleep. Fuck you. You didn't read my book.
Right.
Marjorie didn't read her own. I, as of today, have crossed 15,000 pages read on Kindle. 15,000.
Very well done.
386 copies have been sold. Those numbers should mean something to somebody. You can make money off of me, is my point. I'm an untapped gold mine. Let's make some money together. And it's my intention that 2024 will be the most lucrative of my life. And by the way, if somebody options my book, Hal Sparks gets to be in the streaming series.
It's true.
Let's make that happen.
Well, only if you want the ratings to be really high.
Yeah, so please go to TaraDublinRocks.com, which one of a sparkler named Tammy is the one who set up TaraDublinRocks.com. Thank you, Tammy. And she helped me. She was the one, get an Amazon wish list. Put your cat litter on it. People will help you. People are wonderful. People are so wonderful. And I could not be more grateful to your audience who have taken me into their hearts as one of their own. And I don't care if 3 people are watching or 3 million people are watching. You have me with you for life.
Yeah. Aw.
Boost Hal.
So
let's make.
Thanks.
Can we just really try to make this a really good Christmas for everybody, a really good New Year? I believe that good people, when people keep putting good stuff out in the world, it doesn't really matter how much the world tries to push back. Good people will still find their way. That's what I'm choosing to believe that, because Henry Winkler believes that.
He so does.
So again,
Henry Winkler was the producer of the comeback of Hollywood Squares when I was on a guest several times. And few people get to say that they folded time and went back to the 70s like I did, where I literally was working for the Fonz. It's
amazing.
Yeah, it's lovely. And
it's like your whole childhood in a person.
I was so incredibly intimidated to meet him, in theory, showing up. Now, let me tell you something. When I meet people, even when they're super famous, I have a gear I go into where my fanboying gets shoved aside, because I prioritize their comfort and me and wanting them to know how much I really like what they are about, as opposed, and I'm also, I guess, partially, there's a little bit of a guard in case they turn out to be an asshole. You can always have that as well. But I just interact with people like they're people, even if I'm like going, holy shit, right? Which happens a bunch. Especially, the only fail. Oh, Max. The only fail was Steve Martin, in which case I was always like, when we spoke the first time,
I'd be able to speak.
I didn't hear a word he said. We had a conversation. I don't remember shit. I don't remember any of it. I just remember that's Steve Martin, right? So
Steve Martin, and then done, right?
Yeah. And Martin Short, the first time not the first time. The first time he's aware that we met, because we met in Canada once before that. The first time I met him, I was on his talk show, and he came into my room in a robe, clearly trying to make me uncomfortable, which was hilarious.
That's very funny.
Yeah.
I like it when they show you their human side. That matters so much. And like
that's who he is. That's I mean, Henry Winkler is just one of those people, like you want to hug him and not let go. He's one of the sweetest human beings you will ever meet, hands down.
He's like, he grew up basically around the corner from where my parents' apartment is now on the Upper West Side. It was like listening to a Jewish uncle of mine tell stories. It's just, feels like family. And I'm also like you, like when I have the opportunity to speak to somebody who I've admired for a really long time, I try to lead with something when I'm interviewing, like previously when I would interview people either on the radio or when I had a podcast or whatever.
Thanks, Wes.
Find some way to connect with them that has nothing really to do with fandom, more about just like, here's a little curve. Here's something I knew about you and that I think is really cool, and I want to ask you about it. And they really appreciate that. So like when I got a couple of years ago when I was co-hosting a political podcast, I had the opportunity to talk to Nancy Pelosi for 20 minutes. And I'm like, how do you start an interview with Nancy Pelosi? Where do you go? And it was 2018. She was about to be speaker again, which I told her. She was like, oh, I don't know, Tara. And I was like, I do. But the first thing I asked her was not anything political, because she was on Time Magazine that week for the first time not when she was first speaker, it was after that. And I said, you have more energy and you look better than most people who are a fraction of your age. What's your number one beauty secret? Like before I asked her anything that mattered.
Right. Yeah.
And I was waiting for her to go, well, every morning I stick my face in a bowl of ice water like Paul Newman, or I bathe in La Mer. And without missing a beat, like she was expecting me to answer her, I said, what's your number one beauty secret? She goes, dark chocolate ice cream. I was like, really? She said, Tara, dark chocolate ice cream for breakfast. And I was like, I love you. And every time Nancy Pelosi would do something amazing, I would tweet, give this woman all the dark chocolate ice cream she wants.
That explains that. See, I missed the podcast, but I've seen, I think you say that before. And I was like, I'm sure there's a reference there. I just don't know it.
Yes.
Now I do.
That's those kinds of connections. She might not remember that, but that's what I remember. That and when I stopped dyeing my hair a couple of years ago, the only reason I kept going was like, Nancy Pelosi's never going to stop dyeing her hair. Right. Never.
Yeah.
And neither is my mom, but neither of them are coming over to do my roots every 3 weeks. So,
Understood.
When you have a lifelong shiro like that, you have to admit, I'm not getting to where she is. I'm just not. I'm going to stand here in admiration and awe, which is how you should treat Nancy Pelosi at all times. Anyway, so I'm assuming we're not going to see each other next Monday.
No, because it's a holiday,
it's
a holy
Christmas.
day.
So buy your friends, buy everybody. It fits in a stocking stuffer. Sound
Big
of settling
stocking.
at TaraDublinRocks.com.
That's right.
And you're going to come to Portland someday, and we're going to hang out.
Yes, we are. That's
a
we got
2024 goal.
We're going to have in the Christmas week when I have kind of shuffling shows on a little open time, and obviously you're not going to be busy Christmas Day, I don't suppose. Waking up early.
I'm just getting my Chinese food like I normally
do.
Yeah. It's not Christmas without an egg roll.
I'll try and kick in and call. We'll talk about plans for the new year. Here. It's a good idea.
I will be here.
And I will finish my Martin Short story after Tara
Did the robe open accidentally?
No, that was the joke that it was going to. It was a constant, like, the robe opened this way, and then he would turn around just kind of doing it up, and the idea that it would fall. Oh, my goodness. Like, that was the joke. Or that he was going to reach for something, and the robe was really short, and he's like, somebody will get it. Like, it was really funny. It was very funny. But it was
That's
like...
great.
Yeah, it would obviously it would have got him canceled these days because people can't fucking take a joke anymore. But goddamn, he's awesome.
The best. Everybody have a wonderful week.
Yes, thank you so much. We'll see you again. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else.
Bye, everybody.
The sound of settling. Tara Dublin rocks. Indeed, she does. Yay! There she goes.
Bye, friends.
Bye. Off she goes. And then I think I had it was another story. It's always an issue when you've got Tara and the Major on in the same show. There was a story I didn't get to finish as well about somebody else. I'll remember it later. The robe was Martin Short. Yeah, it would be terrible if he was in a long robe. Wouldn't you think? It just doesn't. Oh, by the way, so I'm going through. This is a little bit pre-Christmas. Let's just do this, and then I'll sign off, and I'll let you guys go. We went a little bit over, so I haven't had a good Midwestern goodbye in a long time, have I? So, you guys. I started a little thing a while back ago. That's great. A while back. A little while ago. A while back. Both at the same time together. Wild tobacco. I kept talking about kind of the talking points graveyard that is my show. Like, my show is where, like, right-wing talking points go to die. And I found something that is kind of in many ways, I would call it the symbol of the talking points graveyard. If we could put a monument, the biggest tombstone in the talking points graveyard, it would be this fella right here. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. Potato Head, which you'll recall a while back. You guys remember the Mr. Potato Head freak out? They made a Mrs. Potato Head, and then they put both of them together so you could have the parts for both, and you could make a Mr. or a Mrs. Potato Head, and you could make just Potato Head if you wanted to, without calling it a Mr. or Mrs. And everybody's like, Jesus God! Now they have come for Mr. Potato Head! What else is? Nothing is sacred! There is no... Whatever happened? Remember that? Yeah, I have one of these. I bought it at that point. I bought a at that point to go like, it's not even available. You can't even find. They were literally out everywhere. Like, you can't find one. You can't get one. There aren't any. And I went and got one, and I was like, well, that's that. So I have had a fully built Mr. Potato Head sitting on a shelf in the other room since then, as this constant reminder that Republicans are always freaking out about fucking nothing. So for me and Mr. Potato Head, have a great pre-Christmas week, and I look forward. I've got a surprise that I'm going to share later on in the week. That's all I'm going to say. It's a bit Christmassy. It's a wee bit Christmassy. May or may not involve Mr. Potato Head at this point. It might have to, but we'll see. And hell, since I'm doing a Midwestern goodbye, I found something out about Mr. Potato Head that a lot of people don't know. It's that...